Scrum is a versatile methodology that is intended to assist teams in an organization in completing projects faster in an agile environment. Scrum Artifacts help the product and software development teams to manage their work effectively. In the age of digital workspaces, Scrum Artifacts promote productivity among teams. So, in this video, we will understand in detail about Scrum Artifacts and how to use them. Before we get started, I would like to address the agenda for today's session. We will start our session with a brief understanding of what Scrum is and what exactly is Scrum Artifacts. Moving on, we will understand about the 7 Scrum Artifacts in detail and conclude the session by talking about benefits of Scrum meetings. I hope the agenda was clear. Before we start with our session, if you like this video, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, to learn more about Agile project management and its practices, check out Invensis Learning's Agile Project Management Certification Training on Certified Scrum Product Owner, Professional Scrum Product Owner, Professional Scrum Master, and Agile Scrum Master. All of the necessary information is given in the description box below. Without any further ado, let us get started with a quick understanding of what Scrum is. Scrum is an Agile development framework that uses iterative and progressive methods to build applications or products. It is an evolution of Agile management. Now, to give a brief introduction to Agile methodology. Agile methodology is a development and testing strategy that encourages continuous iteration throughout the project's development life cycle. It is dividing the entire project into smaller, more manageable parts so that usable software or applications can be developed and released faster. Scrum is a part of Agile methodology. Its technique is based on a set of well-defined tasks and activities that have to be implemented to develop the products. Scrum helps teams adapt to the user's changing requirements by reprioritizing the important tasks and releasing the software in shorter and faster cycles while allowing the team to learn and improve. Now, Scrum is frequently handled in quick and temporary chunks, termed sprints. Sprint is a time period which usually spans from anywhere about 2 to 4 weeks, in which the Scrum team is expected to complete a set of tasks. Each final product update is completed in one sprint and released as one iteration. Each sprint is its own entity, meaning it provides a full outcome. An iteration or variant of the final product is to be delivered to the client when needed, with a set amount of work done. So, I guess you have some idea about Sprint and Scrum. Let us understand what Scrum Artifacts are and why it is important. A Scrum Artifact is a collection of information used by a Scrum team to define the product or service being developed, the stages necessary to generate it, and the actions required during its development. Scrum Artifact provides information on the performance of a sprint. Scrum Artifacts are essential for Scrum teams because they enable core Scrum qualities such as transparency, inspection, and adaptability. This is important, especially for remote teams who may work from home because it gives a platform for them to monitor how they're performing on a certain sprint. This keeps everyone, no matter where they are, on the same page. Now, Scrum relies on small teams of cross-functional people who may self-organize to complete tasks. The Scrum team should have a shared understanding of the task to be done for this to happen. So, here Scrum Artifacts come into play. Scrum Artifacts keep everyone on the team on track as they work toward the sprint goal. Even when large or last-minute changes occur, Scrum Artifacts continue to capture the important information the team requires at various checkpoints to achieve the final results. Now, talking about ways how Scrum Artifacts are helpful. Scrum Artifacts firstly help in making a list of your product management goals and objectives. Next, it helps in making a list of tasks that can help you achieve these goals. Then, with Scrum Artifacts, tasks can be organized into sprints based on their relevance and interdependence. Next, it helps in completing the tasks on schedule. Next, it helps to examine and evaluate the data to see how well they correspond with the goals. So these were some of the reasons why Scrum Artifacts are helpful and why they are widely popular among many organizations. Now, let us move on to our main topic and talk about the 7 Scrum Artifacts. Now, the 7 Scrum Artifacts that play a major role in improving the performance of a Scrum team are Product Vision, Product Backlog, Sprint Vision, Sprint Backlog, Definition of Done, Product Increment, and Burndown Chart. Now, let us discuss the Scrum Artifacts one by one in detail. First is Product Vision. A product vision, also known as a product vision statement, outlines your product's broad, long-term objective. Vision statements are aspirational and express clearly where the product intends to go and what it hopes to achieve in the long run. The statement should act as a guide and reminder to all stakeholders engaged in the creation of a product, which includes the product team, development, executive staff, marketing, and others, to understand the common shared goal they're attempting to achieve with this product. The vision statement should also address why the teams are developing the product and what does the organization expect to achieve with it in the future. Creating a vision helps your team to design your product from the top down. To explain this in simple terms, you start with a high-level vision statement and then transform the vision into a strategic guide and action plan, which is known as the product roadmap. The strategic perspective of the roadmap is then translated into a tactical development strategy. Now, talking about some of the benefits of product vision. A product vision statement may offer value by making it easier for your team to express the high-level aim driving the development of your product. Next, they help in the coordination of the many groups and departments within the organization that is working on the project. Then, with product vision, there is a common vision, so everyone has something to refer to, which may remind them of why they are doing what they are doing. So, drafting a vision statement should be the team's first step in moving to the next phase of any new product, and it should always come before working on the product plan. So this was about the product vision. Now let us move on to our next Scrum Artifacts, product backlog. The product backlog is an ordered list of features that must be included in the final product, and it acts as the single source of requirements for any modifications to the product. The product backlog describes all of the features, functions, requirements, additions, and fixes that will be added to the product in future editions. Product backlog items include the following attributes: a description, an order, an estimate, and a value. These are commonly referred to as user stories. The product owner is in charge of the product backlog's content, availability, and ordering. A product backlog is a continuing process. The oldest version of it may include the criteria that were initially identified and best understood. As the product and the environment in which it will be utilized develop, so does the product backlog. The product backlog is always evolving to include what is needed to make the product work better and make it more effective. As long as a product exists, so does its product backlog. Now, the product backlog grows larger and more comprehensive as the product being created is used and earns value. Changes in company requirements, market conditions, or technology affect the product backlog, making it an important artifact. Refining the product backlog involves adding descriptions, estimates, and priority orders to the product backlog items. This is a continuous process carried out by the product owner and the team. The Scrum team determines how and when to refine the product backlog. Product backlog items can be modified by the product owner at any time or at their discretion. Higher ordered product backlog items are typically more clear and thorough than lower ordered things. More exact estimations are created as a result of improved clarity and detail. The less detail there is, the lower the order. Product backlog items that are likely to be candidate needs for the next sprint are refined so that they may be created during the sprint. Product backlog items that the team can build in one sprint are declared ready for selection in a sprint planning meeting. So, this was about product backlog. Now, let us move on to the next Scrum artifact, sprint vision. A sprint vision is a brief description of what the team intends to accomplish during an Agile sprint. It is a measurable objective defined by the team and the product owner that is time-bound for the length of the sprint. Despite the fact that the sprint vision or sprint goal is not always specified as an artifact, it is a crucial aspect of the Scrum framework. When designing a sprint, the Scrum team develops a sprint vision. It informs the Scrum team on why they are investing their time, money, and effort in the sprint. A sprint goal specifies the sprint's goal and guides future decision-making as the project progresses. If new issues or tasks arise throughout the sprint vision provides a reference for the team on what to focus on and how to arrange or reprioritize various tasks. Now, talking about some of the benefits of sprint vision are: in daily scrums, sprint vision provides clarity and purpose, and it sets a standard for measuring progress, value, and results. Next, allow for some flexibility in the functionality implemented throughout the sprint, and it assists the product owner in creating the product roadmap. Next, it helps with sprint planning, and then it allows for more efficient and coordinated decision-making. So, this was about sprint vision. Now, let us move on to the next Scrum artifact, sprint backlog. The sprint backlog consists of the product backlog items chosen for the sprint, as well as a plan for delivering product increment and achieving the sprint goal. The sprint backlog is the team's forecast of what functionality will be available in the next increment and the work required to deliver that functionality as a working product increment. The sprint backlog is a plan with sufficient depth for the team to track in the daily scrum. Throughout the sprint, the team adjusts the sprint backlog, as the team goes through the plan and learns more about the work required to achieve the sprint goal. As some new work is required, the team adds it to the sprint backlog. The estimated remaining work is updated as work is performed or completed. Elements of the plan that are deemed unneeded are removed. During a sprint, only the team has the ability to update its sprint backlog. The sprint backlog is a highly visible, real-time representation of the work that the team intends to do during the sprint, and it is owned entirely by the team. However, the development team is not entirely permitted to change the items in a sprint backlog. Before making any modifications to the sprint backlog, the team must first negotiate with the product owner, product manager, or Scrum Master. This communication between the development team and the Scrum Master is beneficial. The reason for this is that rather than completely eliminating a process, it allows you to find methods that help to create smaller parts of the process so that they can be completed relatively easier. Sprint backlogs are created by taking a task from the product backlog and breaking it down into smaller, actionable sprint tasks. Let's look at an example to make things more clear. Assume you wish to integrate a web page website. Adding a web page requires a number of steps, including the creation of a suitable design. The product backlog is a list of generic tasks such as creating a web page. The sprint backlog comprises specific and smaller activities that are driven by a larger task. For example, creating the user interface design for that web page is a task that should be added to the sprint backlog. So, this was about sprint backlog. Now, let us move on to the next Scrum Artifacts, definition of done. The definition of done specifies that all elements of a user story in a sprint backlog have been completed. Now, for those of you who do not know what a user story is. A user story is an informal explanation of a software system's features and characteristics. It is basically the user or client's requirements of what they want to do with the software or the product. Now, the Scrum team must agree on what done includes. They should define done and utilize it as a checklist while they work on their user stories. So, the team can sit together and decide what tasks need to be finished by the end of the sprint and set each of those tasks as done. So, as they complete each of the tasks in the checklist, they can mark those as done. During the first sprint planning, the Scrum team can develop its definition of done. It may then be improved upon during sprint retrospectives, which means that the DoD is not fixed. It might be modified accordingly throughout the process. And with Agile, there are a lot of dones. Each feature is dependent on the completion of another feature before the product is really finished and released. That would be the end result. However, each sprint contains a characteristic that must be completed by the end of the sprint. By done, it implies that if that feature had to be released on its own, it could be released. Let us understand this better with a scenario. Let's say, for a development team when the program is covered with automated tests, which match a particular specification and is deployed to a production environment. When assessing available Scrum tasks, a team that lacks a defined definition of done will frequently find themselves in sprint review wondering, is this done? The concept of done helps in the determination of an increment. Increments should be given in fully usable packages that are added to previous increments. Done also indicates when a job is finished and can be closed off for burndown tracking. Ideally, the project should be completed after each iteration. However, this is not always the case. Things come up that need to be handled, causing the project to pivot in order to adapt rapidly to those changes. As a result, releasing after every sprint is not recommended. However, in order to track the project's progress, each feature must be finished within the sprint. So, being done includes ensuring that each feature has been fully produced, tested, and accepted by the product owner. Then and only then is it completed. This was about the definition of done. Now, let us move on to our next Scrum artifact, which is product increment. This is the most important Scrum artifact. The product increment is the sum of all the product backlog items accomplished during a sprint. Because each sprint has the ability to produce product increments, the product increment must meet the team's definition of done and be acceptable to the product owner. The increment is the total of all product backlog items completed during a sprint plus all prior sprint increments. The new increment must be a functioning product at the completion of a sprint, which implies it must be functional. The Scrum team must reach an agreement on what constitutes an increment. This varies greatly depending on the Scrum team, but team members must have a shared view of what is the work to be completed. This is used to determine when work on the product increment is complete. The same idea helps the team in determining how many product backlog items it may choose during a sprint planning session. Each sprint's goal is to provide increments of potentially releasable functionality. Every sprint, teams release an increment of product features. Because this increment is usable, a product owner may opt to release it right away. Each increment is additive to all previous increments and properly tested to ensure that they all operate together. It is expected that as Scrum teams grow, their definitions of increments will grow to incorporate more requirements for improved quality. Any single product should have a definition of increment that serves as a guideline for all work done on it. This was about product increment. Now, let us move on to our next topic and talk about the Sprint Burndown Chart. Burndown Chart is a graphical representation of how quickly the team completes the user stories or items on the product backlog. As a result, a burndown chart shows the total effort versus the amount of work for a sprint. The burndown chart is a critical artifact to not overlook, despite the fact that it is not typically regarded as one of the fundamental Scrum artifacts. A burndown chart's objective is to ensure that the project is on track and that the deliverable will meet expectations and arrive on time. The velocity of a Scrum team is defined as the amount of work done in the user story that has been completed throughout the sprint. Partially completed tasks are not considered towards velocity. The total amount of work pending in the sprint backlog may be totaled at any point throughout the sprint. The team keeps track of the overall work remaining for each daily Scrum to forecast the possibility of meeting the sprint goal. The team may manage its progress by tracking the remaining work during the sprint. The Sprint Burndown Chart is a technique for tracking the work done by the Scrum team. This has been shown to be an effective strategy for tracking sprints' progress toward the sprint goal. At least once every sprint review, the product owner keeps track of the amount of work remaining. The product owner compares this amount to the amount of work left in sprint reviews. This is done to measure progress toward finishing the estimated work by the deadline. This information is then to be shared with all the stakeholders. During sprint planning, teams can refer to the previous burndown charts to determine how many tasks they can realistically achieve in the following sprint. Teams can use in-progress burndown charts to determine whether they are on track to complete the sprint successfully. During the sprint review, teams may refer back to the burndown chart to determine where they exceeded or fell short of expectations. Over time, burndown charts assist teams in better improving their estimations during the Scrum planning stages. This was about the Sprint Burndown Chart. Now, I guess you have some idea about sprint artifacts. So, let us now move on to our next section and discuss some of the benefits of Scrum artifacts. Scrum artifacts provide important information for development teams. Following the meeting with a client to review project requirements, the Scrum team collaborates and creates artifacts to ensure that all members understand their roles, duties, expectations, and project assignments. So, talking about a few benefits of Scrum artifacts. It increases team productivity by encouraging constant collaboration. The team members have to collaboratively discuss various topics such as product, sprint vision, and backlogs. Next, it sets sprint goals for each stage of product development. When sprint vision or sprint goal is planned, the entire sprint is divided into stages, and the goal for each of these stages is set. Third, it lists the duties of team members so that everyone is aware of their responsibilities. Next, Scrum Artifact establishes project and sprint deadlines and keeps track of the completed work and continuing work. Fifth, it creates clear visualizations for teams to understand overall productivity using charts and graphs. Next, it opens up new possibilities for incorporating updates, new features, and alternate specifications to the product or software. Seventh, it outlines all project sprints, including each deliverables start and completion dates. Moving on, Scrum artifacts encourage cooperation among team members, executives, stakeholders, and clients. And when teams need to adjust project parameters and adopt alternative solutions, this tool provides flexibility. So, these were some of the benefits of Scrum artifacts. To conclude the session, I would like to say that Scrum artifacts are essential tools that assist teams in working more efficiently. As a result, it's critical for the project's long-term success that all teams have access to and can see the artifacts. Product managers and Scrum masters should regularly evaluate and discuss artifacts with development teams. This will assist teams in identifying operational inefficiencies and generating new ways to improve productivity and efficiency. So, this was about Scrum artifacts. With this, we have come to an end of this video. I hope it was helpful. Comment your thoughts in the section below. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell, never to miss an update from the Invensis Learning channel. Also, if this has spiked your interest and you want to learn more about Scrum and its practices, check out Agile Scrum Master Certification Training by Invensis Learning, which will help learn how to facilitate, coach, and enable cross-functional and self-managed teams as a Scrum Master. You can also check our other courses such as Certified Scrum Master, Professional Scrum Master, Safe Scrum Master and Agile Scrum Foundation. We at Invensis Learning provide interactive instructor-led certification training by trainers with rich domain experience and expertise. We also provide mock tests to make you confident while appearing for the certification exams, access to mock tests and case studies prepared by the industry experts, and personalized LMS with lifetime access that contain course resources. Thank you. Have a nice day.